Did this 8-4 finish fall in line with your preseason prediction?
I had them. I had them hitting the over. I think the line was 7.5 preseason. I had them hitting the over. I had them at 9-3.
Okay.
The only miss that I had was, let's see. Well, I'd have to look back. I don't want to misquote myself, but I think I had them beating Iowa State. I think, but I may have flipped a couple. But yeah, I had them at 9-3, and they were, like you said, a play away on a couple of fronts.
I was at 8-4, so I nailed it this year. But that's one of those that if you're going to pick a team, if you're going to tell me, you know what, your life's on the line during the off season, and you can pick one college football team, and you've got to hit their record exactly right, I would probably take Iowa because there would be less variation than almost any other team in the country. Unless I wanted to go top end, I would either go Iowa or I'd say Ohio State. Those would be probably the two schools I would go after.
Don't they always hit the over though?
But I
Like
didn't
there's
pick Ohio State to go 12-0. They seem to, don't they?
They do. Every year we look at that and we're like, that seems low. I would
Yeah.
take the over, and every year we're right. I don't know. I don't know why Vegas doesn't ever fluctuate on that. It seems like, but hey, I saw the Old Dominion quarterback. I mean, I guess nobody can officially enter the portal right now, but it's official that he's going to. I don't know. Have there been other big names that have hit the portal at quarterback so far, Mark? There will be
Not
other
that I
guys that
know of.
enter, but it's going to be very intriguing to see what Iowa can do at that position. Because now that Stratton's gone, I know that you would have said regardless they had to hit the portal, but now they've already lost two quarterbacks, Gronowski, Stratton. They had one in this kid that was previously committed to Boise State. He's going to be signing tomorrow. And then how about this? This is a Hawkeye note. Cash Herrera, a former Iowa commit who flipped to Indiana. He decommitted from Indiana last week. And after a visit to Boise State, he's now committed to Boise State. So they've literally just Iowa, because Herrera decommitted from Iowa then flipped the Boise State commit, and then Boise State flipped Cash Herrera back from Indiana. Hey, a kid who makes three different college choices, I know it's a big decision, but that might be an indication. If you do that even before you get to your school, that might be an indication that maybe stability is not quite there in that young man's life yet. Like he's not real. I don't know. I don't know what it means. I shouldn't speculate, but my guess is Kirk and the staff are happy that they got Traden Bessinger from Boise.
While we're talking about our evaluation of the season and whether it was a disappointment or not, I will fall in the same classification as you in terms of, I don't think you can call that a failure. I hate to be that extreme. It's not a failure, especially considering, to me, the performance. Had they gone 8-4 and they got their doors blown off by those four teams, I consider that. Now, maybe that's less disappointing. Maybe that becomes more disappointing because it's so close. But they were in every game to the end. The performance was right there. So to me, it's more disappointing than it being anything close to a failure. But they didn't exceed my expectations. They pretty much hit my expectations, obviously, from a record standpoint. Now, I would have thought that they would have been handled by one of those teams. The probabilities going into the season would have been that Penn State or Oregon or going out to USC, one of those teams would have handled them pretty well, 34-14 or something like that. But that didn't happen. So they were, just that close. There was a post that I sent you, and I was looking for it and could not find it. But somebody had posted on social media, and this caused people to weigh in with their opinions on both sides. And I see both sides of this, where I believe the roll call is, since the college football playoff was instituted in 2014, so we're talking about now 12 seasons, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Clemson, Iowa are the only teams to have won 8 games every season. Take out 2020, obviously. and then the comments roll in, of course. And there's obviously a distinction. There's an obviously an outlier there. So I have no issue with attacking that from both sides. I think from the negative side, no, you cannot put Iowa in the classification of those other programs during that course of time because they didn't compete at the level and compete for national championships and win a ton of conference championships and play at the winning. Like if we would post winning percentage next to those, they wouldn't be close. But statistically, it's true. And statistically, it's true because it also speaks to the consistency that there's been no letdown and the program and the team credit Kirk to start, but also the coaching staff. Phil Parker, of course, has been there the entire time, that they have consistently been at least good during that time.
High floor, low ceiling. I mean, that's what you're looking at. And yeah, that stat, I know that stat bothers you to some extent.
It doesn't bother me. I'm just bringing
Well,
clarification.
you just don't like Iowa being thrown into. I mean, here's what's crazy. Like what you just said, that they're, you know, one of how many teams that has won 8 games over this course of this time. They're also like, they have been under Kirk, one of like 10 teams that have an X number of players on active rosters in the NFL. So, and you look at that and you're like, well, they're in a handful with Clemson, with Florida, with Ohio State, with USC. So they're in the mix with all those programs for player development too, Mark. So what does that tell us? Either A, Iowa's just consistently developing good, not great NFL players, which is translating to good, not great seasons at the college level, or they are actually underperforming their level of development. Because they do have some great players in the NFL. Now, if you were to rank, like give a score rating next to every Iowa NFL player versus every Clemson NFL player or every Ohio State NFL player, would Iowa's rating probably be lower? Yes. But if it wasn't, then you'd have to look at that and say, okay, as great as Iowa's been, either they're not balanced enough with where they're really good, you know. But you could probably make that argument, like they produce a ton of tight ends, but they don't produce any quarterbacks, any receivers. Okay, we can have that discussion. That's part of the problem. Or again, they're just not performing as well as they're developing, but they are still performing well to a point where they don't drop to a certain point, or you know, they don't go up to a certain point, if that makes sense.
I would give it this nuance, which is somewhat in agreement, but somewhat different, that we would have to look at we'll take Ohio State. We'd have to take all of Ohio State's NFL players versus Iowa's current NFL players. But off the top of my head, I don't think there's a great distinction about how good they are in the NFL. I think it's just Ohio State has more. Therefore, that speaks to them producing better talent and winning more games at the collegiate level. But I don't think like Ohio State has just a zillion superstars in the NFL and Iowa's guys are barely hanging on to rosters. I think it's actually pretty close.
But not every player, not every position is as important as the next position.
Sure.
And it's a fact that like Ohio State has produced a bunch of really good quarterbacks, really good receivers. Those are two positions Iowa hasn't sniffed success at. So those are two major variables that are just totally different. And maybe there is some explanation there. Like if you took some of the tight ends out of the NFL and put them as receivers, like, okay, now Iowa's producing receivers instead of some of these tight ends, maybe Iowa would have some more, you know, national success. I don't know. I mean, this is Tim Lester's job now to go out and figure out a way to improve the passing game. They looked pretty good at times